Let's talk about the United Healthcare CEO situation. Health insurance, many of us have been screwed over, are getting screwed over, are afraid of getting screwed over. This guy, Luigi, from what we know so far, suffered some very disappointing circumstances. I believe it has to do with some treatment he wasn't able to get in reference to a back injury. But those details are still coming out. I want to welcome you to Guilt Free Faith. My name's Jimmy James Johnson. Guilt does not live here. You're at the wrong place. Let's talk about the United Healthcare CEO suffered fatal harm, and there's a lot of debate about whether it was right, whether it's justified, whether perhaps it should even be illegal. Is it some type of self-defense or self-defense after the fact? And what do we really do about a justice system in which we, as the common people, are constantly seeing the wealthy, the privileged, the powerful just get off? It doesn't seem like there's anything they can't get away with. When we're talking about health insurance with friends and family, and when I was in med school, in a whole variety of circumstances, I don't know many people that feel great about their health insurance. It's expensive, unreliable. It has loopholes. It has the uncanny ability to reject treatments that you need desperately. I would say, in my opinion, there are certainly a great deal of cases where these denials, these pre authorizations, all of these gains that boost the profits of healthcare companies literally come at the cost of people's lives. We're not talking just about suffering. We're not talking just about spending a few extra minutes on the phone to get a bill settled. No, we're talking about could be years or decades of suffering. It could be being denied a treatment that you and your physician have very good reason to believe will work. It can be situations where you've already used a treatment that you believe was approved or was authorized, and it actually did help you. And now they're clawing back and refusing to actually go through with the reimbursement. Have you experienced any of these shitty situations? Because you're not alone. In fact, I dare say that most of us have had these unpleasant situations with insurance companies. And what can you say? This type of profits over people is egregious because what it does and the harm that it inflicts on people is not imaginary, it's not immaterial, it's not hard to see or measure. All you have to do is go and speak with people that have health issues, big and small, and you'll get an outpouring of, I wasn't able to get this medicine. I wasn't approved for this procedure. I needed this desperately, or I had a loved one that needed this, and were allowed to pass away in the midst of this absurd back and forth between me and the insurance company. Or actually, let's face it, most people, when you're in that state of illness, you're not even in a position to engage in this fight, which is obviously part of the strategy of these healthcare companies. Did this guy, because of his disappointment, or one might even say injury, perhaps even a life altering injury, then take matters into his own hands and strike at the person in charge, as opposed to going through the law or the civil courts, or let's be honest, finding a multi-billion dollar company, a couple grand or a million, it's a drop in the bucket, right? It's the cost of doing business. It doesn't make any difference. If we were looking strictly at the dollars and cents, we can understand why these people, though some of us may call them sociopaths, people lacking ethics, lacking morals. Of course, just looking at the bottom line, yeah, let's collect insurance premiums, then not pay for the treatments as often as we possibly can. It's egregious. Whether or not you believe that universal health care should be covered or what the mechanism should be, I think we all can agree that to be treated as numbers on a spreadsheet when your life is on the line is at the very least distasteful and at the very most cold blooded murder. As I saw the other day on someone's video comments, you can kill people with a PDF. You can kill people with emails. You can kill people with fraud. You can kill people even by lobbying for a decrease in regulations that give you more freedom to do whatever the hell you want to your customers. So let's look at it from the Christian standpoint. What is Christ saying? The message most of us get in the Bible is you're just supposed to forgive, 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 forgive. And then somewhere along the line, somebody added in and forget. I don't recall that exact phrasing being used in the Bible, but hey, whatever floats your boat, right? I guess if you could truly forgive someone, then perhaps you would also forget the offense. We know Christ was focused on forgiveness. I think most of us, even with a brief and cursory knowledge of the Christian faith, we've heard some of these buzzwords. Right. We know that Christ talked about forgiveness, forgiving the people that were persecuting him, the people that ultimately would execute him. He talked about forgiving neighbors, forgiving all kinds of transgressions that you think are worse than what you're doing. Christ tried to get this point across, saying instead of worrying about the speck in that person's eye, their small sin, whatever they're dealing with, first take out the mote in your eye. Here you are with this serious sin that you're carrying or continually engaging in. We want to point to someone else, right? You did something wrong. Don't worry about me. What about you? You. And most of us have witnessed this cycle of conversation, which of course really goes nowhere. When I was growing up, I had people in my household who this was like the kind of song and dance that they would go through. One person would accuse the other of not doing something right. Then the other person would say, yeah, okay, maybe, but what about you? What about you? What about you? Okay. And as someone growing up and listening to this, I saw it was just really fruitless because, first of all, these type of conversations never end because if you're trying to be right, if you want to win the argument, there is no way to win it because people engaged in those types of conversations are not going to see that ground. They're going to either deny that what they're doing is problematic or they're going to rope you in with them like, hey, I do this, would you do this? Okay. Now, is it true that in fact you are doing something wrong and they are doing something wrong? Absolutely. Why? Because we're all doing something wrong. There's nothing unique or shocking or mysterious about this. And yet Christ had to address it because it's human nature to want to take the spotlight off of us and say, "Oh no, let's look at what someone else is doing." Because let's face it, to whatever degree we're involved in sin, oftentimes that's either something we're just doing by habit, something that we may be doing as an addiction, something that we just have a different opinion on, or we don't really think is wrong, but someone else is bringing it to our attention as being sinful or bad. In all of these cases that I just mentioned, it can be very hard or impossible to discontinue that sin. If the only solution is okay, once I close up shop on all my own sins, then I can get around to criticizing other people. Christ made it clear that you're never going to get through taking the board out of your own eye. There are different translations for this, but basically, mind your own business. And once that is perfected, then go on to judge others and sit in judgment. But the joke's on us because we're never going to reach that level of perfection.